myself. Good evening and welcome to our podcast, Ideal Coaching. And we are very honored to have here with us someone I've known for a few years, KH, and he's from Malaysia. And I met him in Malaysia. We did meet in Malaysia, didn't we?
No, we didn't meet in Malaysia. No, we met online.
We met online. We were
Yes.
talking about that earlier, how COVID brought so many of us together. And he came through our Coaching for Excellence program. And it was wonderful. And I'm going to tell you about KH in a little bit. Listen, he's just an amazing human being. And he's going to tell us about him. And so I invite you to be here listening. And if you will put in the chat, just where you're from, put your name in the chat. And we're going to start in a few minutes. You want to know who's here. Just where are you from? I see some people that I know from here. And is anybody writing? Meeting group chat. So just put some, okay, here you go. Yeah, Culver City, hi. Melbourne, Australia. Culver City. Let's see, what do we got here? I know Casey from Malaysia. Well, welcome. And any comments that come up, you can put them in the chat. Now, the chat, I look at it. And we'll look at it. So what our invitation to you for being here is that we listen together. Find that a large part of our work is learning to listen. Something I'm finding that I'm not very good at, learning, listening. And, we spend so much time teaching people to speak, but very little in teaching people how to listen. And I'm finding that it's an integral and important part of our humanness in listening. And also it's in our listening that we co-create our worlds together. So again, welcome. And KH, let me tell you a little bit about KH, and then I'm going to open this conversation and give him some time to speak. Like I said, he's from Malaysia. He's an attorney. He was an attorney. I guess you'll always be an attorney, huh, KH? But
Well, so I'm told.
so you're told, yeah, he's an attorney. And we were talking a little bit here about his life, as he moved from being an attorney to a transformational trainer. And then he is into conversations and how we speak and how we listen, because that's critical to us shaping our worlds together. And he lived in, so I'm going to let you tell us about you, KH. You lived in London for a while. Is that correct?
For 5 years.
Lived in London for 5 years. And as we were talking about his profession, ex-profession of being an attorney, we were talking about attorneys are, should I tell this? Attorneys are, what's the only other profession that they wear black suits? Was that the question?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So what are the only other professions where they wear black suits? And so, of course, I didn't know. I was thinking, and he said, undertakers. Oh, undertakers usually wear black, but I think that might be changing a little bit now. And that lawyers. So you tell the story, KH, and thank you. And so, what were you telling me?
People often ask me, what what are lawyers about? Or what do lawyers do? And when I'm naughty, I would say what Betty just said, and get people to to see that we wear the same colors as funeral directors or undertakers. And also I refer to the usual comment that lawyers are vultures. And I say that lawyers are vultures in a positive way. And of course, everybody pricks up their ears and listen because they don't never hear that in a positive way. So I said, I often ask the question, what do vultures do in nature? Well, they eat carrion, they get rid of dead bodies, so it doesn't stink up the place. So vultures clear the dead bodies so that the rest of the animals can get on with life. And that's the same thing with funeral directors. They bury the dead bodies and they do a job so that the rest of the world can move on. And if we look at funeral directors, we seldom think of them. You know why? Because they do a good job. We will never, the funeral directors doesn't come into our thinking unless they do a bad job. So if a casket falls off the back of a van, then the news will be full of it. But otherwise, if we don't hear about them, they are actually doing the best job. They're doing the job well. Now, lawyers, on the other hand, should be the same because if they bury dead agreements, dead marriages, dead businesses, and they resolve issues between people, then if they do a good job, then you don't hear about them. And because you hear about lawyers all the time, maybe they're just not doing their job properly, and they become the focus of themselves rather than having their work done being the proper focus. So anyway, that's how I talk when I'm naughty about it.
When you're naughty about it. That's a Malaysian term, is it? Naughty.
Well,
Or
it's an English term, I think. English
English
term.
term, but do they?
Naughty, cheeky, that's English, yeah.
Yeah. So one of the things I've learned is I've traveled around the world and met different people from other parts of the world. There are certain sayings, cultural sayings that we have, cheeky. So welcome, KH, and tonight's
Thank you.
conversation, we want to talk about abundance and what is abundance. And abundance, not as what you accumulate. I think that sometimes I thought of abundance that way. If I have enough, then I'll be enough and I'll be sufficient. And in the last year or so, I've spent time thinking about this. So, what is abundance? It's the universe abundance, abundant. And so I started to ask the question, how do I become a person through whom more can move? Like life is moving through us. And I won't get into ontology here, but it's an ontological how we look at ourselves. We're not fixed, we're not in here someplace, but we are space, we're an opening through which life moves. And when life is moving through us, uh, what does it move with scarcity or does it move with abundance? And if it's moving with scarcity, something is being disclosed about how I'm perceiving the world and perceiving myself. And if it's moving abundantly, then I am participating in a particular way. So one of the key words here is participate. How are you participating? Are you participating from lack? Are you participating from scarcity? Are you participating from insufficiency? And we know that in this insufficient conversation that so many of us live in, and this is global, that there can only be scarcity. Now, let me say this, and I'm going to bring Kate into this conversation. So then, what is abundance beyond money and acquisition? Because we live in the world now where if you have money, then you're abundant. And some of you know people who have money. However, they're They don't come from an abundant, a way of being, a way of generating, a way of caring. And so then I started to ask, what is abundance? And when abundance is not, when I'm not present to abundance, how does life occur for me and for people around me? What are my actions? What do I circulate when I'm abundant? I mean, when I'm abundant and when I'm scarce, experiencing that. So, how do people unknowingly rehearse and participate as scarce? Stay with me on this. It's going to take a minute to get into this, but I know this has begun to alter my life in so many ways, and you will get a course from me on this. I didn't finish it today as I had intended, so you could have it tonight, but you make sure we have your telephone numbers, your emails, and you will get this course. I'm beginning to see that this is important work. How is the world being disclosed? And the world is being disclosed through me as the generator of life. If I'm generating life and I'm generating life as insufficient, then what will be disclosed? What will be shown to me? What will be available to me is insufficiency or scarcity. What do you say to this, KH, with the work that you do? Is it
This subject has given me some thought. I am now 70, and I suppose I should reflect on some things at this age. Now, where do I start? I think the world is naturally abundant,
say that
and
one again?
maybe
Say that one again, please. The world is.
sorry,
Say that one again. The
the
world is.
world is naturally abundant, and there was one teacher who made a statement about the world growing, nature, trees, plants growing without effort. It's almost like you can't get rid of it. If you have a lawn and you looking at weeds, you can't get rid of them. They just grow. So in a way, maybe that abundance overwhelms us and makes us look at scarcity, because scarcity is the conversation we have if we only focus on ourselves, because then we compare and then we judge ourselves where we are and where we could be, and we see people having more in our eyes. And if we look at life as a whole, it's abundant. But if we look at what we have or we don't have, then we have that scarcity conversation. Now, it's so how I tell myself is this, that if we reduce everything to its fundamentals, the fact that we are alive today is a miracle. And if you are alive today, you're a winner already, because there are so many people who are not alive. And if that's the case, then everything is a win after this. And if we'll have your daily 3 meals and you are able to come online here, that means you are living an abundant life, because many people don't have a meal, don't have water, and they can't be here tonight or today. And so if we look at it that way, then I'm ahead of the game. Because the problem with the human mind is that we have this comparison, this instinct to compare to make sure that we are safe, we are ahead, we got enough, and that we're going to survive. And I think that is what will preoccupy us if we are not careful, so that we become unhappy for no reason at all. Um, so,
Mm.
um, if we look at isolated things, then we see scarcity. So there's a concept of the finite and infinite game that was floated by a philosopher sometime in the 60s, I think, and Simon Sinek, that
Yeah,
corporate
son.
trainer, picked up and wrote a book on it,
Mm-hmm.
called The Finite Game and the Infinite Game. So if you look at the infinite game of life, then it is always up and down, and you're part of it. But if you look at finite games of every day, your paycheck, uh, your targets, and your goals, and so on the basis of a finite game, meaning that you make winning or getting ahead be your goal, then you're going to be operating in illusion, because life is an infinite game. And the whole idea of life is that you participate in it, not that you win in life. Nobody wins in life. Everybody dies. That doesn't mean everybody loses. Your win in life is to live it until the end, participate in it. So, but if you look at life in a very competitive way, which is part of our Western culture, then what appears to be a loss, then you're preoccupied with loss and win, and there's no loss and there's no win if you look at it on an infinite basis. But if you look at an infinite basis, then you get disheartened. Oh, so and so got the promotion that I didn't get,
Mm-hmm.
or someone got promoted, I didn't get promoted. Well, the fact that you're not promoted at the office doesn't mean you're going to starve, but it feels like you are losing, and it's not enough because someone got ahead of me. So games we play, like soccer, whatever games we play and then we go home and forget about it. But because of that idea of competition, of having one winner and one loser in games, it infects the rest of our life. So that we look at salaries and promotion in office like a game in which we must win, otherwise we lose. But
Mm.
you really don't lose because you're earning more than other people in other companies. It's only in this particular occasion that someone got a promotion and you didn't. So it's really the lens in which we look through. If we focus the lens on uh, finite matters in this, limited to, we normally have, let's talk about scarcity. If you feel scarcity, it's always a specific occasion.
Mm.
But, but if you look at the whole life, as you say, your word is participation, then you
Just,
don't see scarcity, or you can see abundance.
yeah, it's very good because abundance is not some far-flung something that we say, but abundance is participation. If you notice, if you have kids and you can notice this, they live in abundance. Many of them, this may be changing now, because they're participating, they're engaged with life. And then the older they and we become, we start to go, okay, I need this to engage with life fully. I need this to be okay with life. And that's a part of the cultural interpretations in the world that we live in. And so we go through those cycles and we stop noticing. Yeah, we stop being aware. We stop noticing where life is appearing in its fullness, in its abundance. And then we start to be scarce. I'm insufficient. I'm not enough. I don't have enough. what you think of me. So we enter that stage of growing up, what, around 6, 7, and maybe even earlier, where we start to say, what do they think of me? And let me become what they will approve of or like so that I can belong. And as soon as you step through that door, you become insufficient in a sense because you've entered the finite game of living. You, does that make, yeah. And so, and then we, and then we want more. I'm gonna tell you this real quickly. My one of my dearest friends, she's one of the world's leadest Egyptologists and a great teacher. And I was on a call because we have these calls with groups of people occasionally. And I used a word that I never use in her presence. And so she had to stop me 3 times, but I was on this whole conversation about, we have gotten to the place where we no longer even appreciate that we shit. Because if you don't go to the bathroom, if you don't defecate, if you don't do that, you will die. But we spend so much time covering it up, trying to hide it, all of this and all of this. And I said it again, and she said, Betty, do you know where you are? That word you're using. I said, but I'm just getting this about me, how much I have to do so much to not be human anymore. And in not being human, I am already saying that in some ways I'm scarce, I'm insufficient. And so I hold on tight. But anyway, she said, she cut me off. She said, we can have this conversation offline. But what I noticed is how much here, I don't know if this is true in other cultures, even though I've traveled around the world and I've worked with a lot of people, how much of our lives are about, there's something wrong with me. I am insufficient in some way. And then in my insufficiency, I don't create. I don't acknowledge other people in their wholeness. I don't initiate something small to circulate, right? To just in circulating. And we're here, all of us on this call, because at one moment in time, we circulated something, you saw it, and you said, yes, I'm going to be here. But if circulation had never, so all those who are here, whether you have your coaches or whatever you are, start to look and see how much of your life are you circulating? What is it that you give that you don't circulate and make requests of people? Because maybe you're not the top, the best in the world. And so you don't circulate. And when you don't circulate what you offer, you, not your offer, but you, something happens. You start to shrink. And then you have all this stuff inside that must go someplace. And usually it's like the Undertaker, huh? The Undertaker will have to come and take you out because you haven't been open and you haven't been abundant in your circulation, in your recognizing others in their abundance and their what they bring. And then you can no longer, you stop receiving. Abundance receives. But if you're all locked up, blocked up like this, you don't want to give that to anyone. And so, what do you think, KH?
Well, um, you brought up children. So if you look at a child participating is always reaching out for new experiences. So the child gets attracted by something bright and they reach out for it. And they are just reaching out for it without reservation. But when we grow older, then we are taught to fear and not to participate because it's not safe. And I think that's the beginning of a scarcity conversation. The spontaneity is gone. So we are no longer autonomous. We are not acting out of what we want. We are acting out of what is safe. So we actually separate ourselves from ourselves. So I'm not living my life. I'm living a way of living that has been handed to me to be safe. So I do not act from myself, but I act according to an external standard of some sort, safety. So the other way of looking at it is I'm not acting of love of life, love of myself, but I'm acting out of fear that I may step wrongly. So life is inviting me to participate, but I'm afraid because it may not be safe, it may not be a worthy investment, I could lose. And so that win-lose conversation comes in, and then we narrow ourselves, as you say, we shrink. We shrink from life. So that affects us in every way, in very subtle ways of our loving other people and so on, become tainted with that same shrinking. Um, so it's not just one thing, it's just an overarching influence in our lives that we should be careful. We should then we live in limitation. So that's I want to share with you a quotation on what love is, which which we I have used in Malaysia for a long while, and let me just get it first. A definition of love from a guy called Eric Fromm,
Eric?
who was a psychotherapist who lived through the war. He wrote several books. Eric Fromm is a fantastic writer. Um, but never mind, let me not get distracted. He gave a definition of love that that made me think. Um, that I've never seen love defined that way before. So, because love is a lot of, usually we associate love with feelings and sentiment and so on. Here is the definition that really has nothing to do with feelings in a very interesting way. So let me just put it in the chat. Love means the capacity for the experience of concern, responsibility, respect, and understanding of another person, and the intense desire for that other person's growth. Now, the first example I can think where this applies is a parent. A parent is committed to the growth of their child. And if you look at the word, the key word there is really growth, that the focus on growth. And our universe, our world of nature is growing all the time. You can't stop it. And that's the process of life, and that's the process we should be participating in, that everything grows. And that's what abundance is about. Because when you grow, you got an abundance of plant and food and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, I'm not sure whether you come across it, Betty, but how does this strike you?
Yeah, it is. It's so the world we live in, we have this mindset or this worldview that we're things. So like the whole conversation around AI right now, that we're things. And what it means to be human is that we care. We come from care. And so I distinguish care and love. But that care starts to flourish, starts to develop as we grow. And something that you and I both know, KH, I'm a little bit older than you, But as you go through life, sometimes you can be slapped, you can be knocked down, but there is care that we can move into and we can continue to develop and grow. And we notice that. It in my life, it's like it pulls me. Some of you here, if in the write in the chat, if you've ever wanted to stop in your life and something called you and you could listen it in a way that you kept moving forth. You kept challenging yourself. And in challenging that conversation of scarcity, insufficiency, not enough, you brought forth what purpose? You brought forth care, and people around you also notice their own care, their own possibility. So it was share. When we share, something happens. You notice that? And so we know with Eric Fromm, he's a brilliant man. It was about having to start to notice and pay attention and be mindful. And then with our little ones, I like to call them our little ones. I'll tell you a quick story again. My niece, some of you may know her. She went through the coaching school here. Shania Spruill. Well, Shania finally got her doctorate degree. And so we were celebrating this weekend. I don't say she finally got it. She worked for it. And I think she's in her 50s. But she loves education. And then she wanted to make a kind of difference with people that she discovered that by studying, by learning, and this is what you're doing. I mean, when I'm learning, I'm developing, I'm opening, I'm beginning to notice that my worldview is not the only way that it is. So I began to open and express in a whole different way. But I said to her, since she was a little girl, I had a sense that she would live her life in a way that she would, of course, contribute to a whole bunch of people and have a good time doing it. Now, she has a son, she's been married, divorced, but there's something, like many of you here, the ones I know, some of you, it's this kind of way of being, this kind of way that you are interpreting yourself that says, yes to life. And knowing that scarcity is a mindset or worldview, and that's not who and what you are. And then it's as if a light goes on. This is what happened to me in my life. Something happens, something emerges where I go, okay, let me take one more step here. And then before I know it, I'm generating. This is a good word, KH. I'm generating life instead of waiting for life to happen.
Yes.
Without me participating.
Yes.
And so in that participation, I create. And then, like I said, I begin to circulate with other people and something happens. We rub our shoulders together and we say, yes. And then our community and our coming together, we begin to recognize this flow. In isolation, I don't know, do we got people here from different places, Australia, Malaysia? But in isolation, if you can begin to notice what happens to people, they begin to shrink. Do you notice that? Or even with you. But when you can recognize, and this is key, and this is where ideal coaching is going, or where I'm going, begin to notice the patterns. We live our lives in patterns. And when I can notice that I am not the pattern, that I'm the pattern maker, something shifts. But becoming aware of patterns of poverty, becoming aware of patterns of anger, patterns of fear, patterns of hopelessness. You understand what I'm saying, KH? And they're
Yes.
patterns. It's like talk about patterns here in the United States. At one point in time, people didn't go into schools here and shoot people up. But in the last 10, 15 years or more people they go into school and shoot it up. So it's become a pattern. And when it becomes a cultural patterns, if people cannot distinguish that it's a pattern, they jump in and they go and they hurt themselves and they hurt other people. So what are your patterns? You start to notice, not because you need to be fixed. I promise you, everybody here in this call, there's nothing wrong with you. Absolutely nothing. And you have patterns that don't work for you and for the life that you say matters to you. So what are those patterns? And as you begin to notice the patterns, something else happens. You begin to say, oh, I have a pattern of holding back. And then you notice the story around your holding back. You can notice this in relationships. You can notice this in your work. This course that I'm putting together for all of us, I noticed that I wasn't jumping in and putting it out because one of my own patterns of not enough, especially in something new that I'm up to. And when I noticed it as a pattern, I simply said, okay, what is this pattern of, not even trying to analyze it. I just noticed as a pattern. And I say, if I brought forth this pattern, I can bring forth another pattern. So what are the patterns, like in this conversation? What are the patterns of abundance? We talked about this. What are some abundant patterns? And what are patterns of scarcity that you can begin to notice? And then with that, noticing again that I don't need to be fixed. Neither do you or anybody else. And especially, if you're a coach, we work with you about not fixing anyone because you're not broken. You live. And in living, you have certain patterns, certain ways of being. And as you begin to notice them, then you can do what? Develop new patterns, because it's what you're doing all the time anyway. What do you say to this, KH?
I the thought occurs to me that that shrinking um, comes from not letting life flow through us
Mhm,
because we
mhm,
want to control it
mm.
and because it has to be a certain way. Um, Patterns will emerge because nature is full of patterns,
Yes.
and patterns can also emerge because we control things and we control things in a particular way, and that creates a pattern. So it can be a natural pattern or just a pattern of scarcity. Um, Life flowing through us is to look at life as bigger than us. Um, and you mentioned the word thing, we are not a thing scrambling to be significant. We are part of the flow of life.
Mm.
And if we identify or if we go with the flow, in the sense of seeing ourselves as part of a bigger thing, then I think we can be humble and happier. Uh, Somebody said, do you think you live life or life lives you? I mean, that's a
Yeah.
perspective to consider.
Okay, now
That,
let's just hold on for a second. This is very good. So I don't know what you are you Buddhist?
not really, but that may be the closest thing. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
I don't particularly have any allegiance.
no, but you know, you study.
But the Buddhist philosophy attracts me. It makes sense for me.
Yeah, that life flows.
Yes,
It's like and its life flows through us, like
yes,
this river that's flowing through us, and it flows as us.
yes. We
Right?
are part of that river.
We're part of that river. And so when we get in the river and we're flowing in the river, you know, like some of you might be like me, I go, oh no, I got to get out of this river. That's not how it's
Yes,
designed.
right.
That's not how it's designed. It's, you know, as I notice and as I look at it. But this is good. So flow. We talk about flow. And you know, and music. What does music do? You know, when you got some hot music, whether it's jazz, rock and roll, whatever it is, but when that music is flowing and you're moving with the music and it moves through you, it's a whole different experience of life, huh?
Yes,
Yeah. You know, these trainings that I started out with, we use music a lot. And,
yes,
and we use music because music, there's a resonance with music, rhythm, music, there's rhythm. Okay. Uh, so with that, what what can you, as you hear listen to this conversation, what do you want to circulate in your life about you? What do you want? Maybe this is a good question. What do you want to circulate? Something that's practical and something that could assist someone else in their flow. Because one of the things I'm finding like my mom and my dad, the little community we grew up in, they were about having people circulate whatever it was themselves. This is the part. It's not about what you do, and I know that's important. But when there's full circulation of your beingness, people come alive just by being in your presence. And when you're off somewhere going, what is this? How am I doing this? How am I looking? What do they think of me? Anybody do that anytime? I know I have. Then the space gets smaller because you've gotten smaller. And what something Kate said, we're trying to control. We're trying to control the river. But this is a longer conversation. And when you receive this 30-day abundance practice, I want you to just notice and remember this is not a challenge. And please remember this. It is a repattering of how you participate in life. And once you start to notice how you're participating, then something happened. And each day you'll engage in four movements. So on this call here, declare yourself a generator or creator. You've heard that before. A generator or creator. When you walk out in the mornings and you look at the sun or wherever you look and you hear the birds chirping, you can listen in a way that you're part of the creation of all of that because you are listening. And then the other request as a part of this is that you circulate. you find something that you can share as a resource. What's a resource that you can share with somebody or someone where it doesn't have to be a book. You don't have to be Eric Fromm. You don't have to be, but yeah, in the grocery store, you share something or with the people in your house, and it's not teaching. This is one of the things we teach about coaching. You hear the word we teach about coaching. We ask you to have presence so people can begin to experience and see themselves in a whole nother way. And then recognize this is another part of this for you. Recognize the gift that you are, because over 8 billion people on the planet, we have gifts that we bring, and some might be similar, but only you can bring the gifts that you bring and recognize that. Now, this is the other piece. So I'm going to direct this to you, KH, and let you receive. So, what would you be receiving if you were created, circulating, recognizing, and what would you receive?
Well, I could think of, I could receive, um, I
Mm.
I could receive the love from others, but
Mm.
that's just what people will say. But I'm just thinking I could receive the satisfaction of being a part of this flow, receive the
Mm.
satisfaction of participating and contributing. And I think that is where I get a sense of abundance, that I am actually, because we thought you mentioned about people feeling not enough and so on, but this receipt of satisfaction that I have contributed or have participated is, I think, a feeling of abundance for me.
Yes, this is critical. Have you noticed when you give, something happens with you? It happens with me. I noticed that. And how it it's almost as if the giving and receiving is one and the same, right? Um, so, and it is to give and receive, because what you give, you receive. Is that too far out there? Giving and receiving is one and the same. So if you walk around, let's say in your house or in your office with a sour face and that's what you're giving, guess what you're going to get back? A sour face. But
Right.
if you walk around, you can walk into a room is yes, Jane, about giving is receiving and receiving is giving. So when you withhold your giving and receiving as a pattern, for whatever reason, then you are stopping your own flow. And when you stop your own flow, what happens then? You get plugged up until someone comes along and says, okay, you're plugged up. So what do you say to that, KH? Yeah.
I think scarcity comes from the idea that of waste. There's really no waste. Um, that if scarcity comes from the fear that if we don't hang on to it, we'll lose our lives. But if you look at life as bigger than ourselves, then there's no fear there about life living us is really a different perspective from I live life and I must hang on to it because that's all I got. But life is meant to be lived, not meant to be kept like a savings account, you know. And if we look at life bigger than us, then we can see ourselves being expendable. We are spent, and life is meant to be spent in contribution or participation, and and that is the greatest satisfaction because someone wrote I think Kimberly put up a word there called surrendering. So we surrender to life, then it will take us places that we cannot imagine.
Yeah, it's a great conversation. And I'm gonna say, and KH, to have wisdom means that you do what we're doing here. You engage in conversations with other people and engaging not from what you already know, but in wonder. So in this abundant world in which we live, and there is abundance in our world, we are, and another way of looking at it, we might be the gatekeepers of abundance. There's so many people. But how do we stay open to that? And I see someone wrote in the chat, will there be a replay available? Yes, it's available. And put it right in the chat so that Meech works with us. She's in Mexico City to make sure that you get, if you want to replay, you can get it. But we put it up, it's on Facebook. And my family calls me whenever we have one of these. They say, we saw it and it was great. And maybe you need to put on a little bit more makeup. This is my family. And I said, okay, great. But anyway, so yes, so this is a big conversation. And one of the things that we'll say in this conversation, what you giving is not so that you can get, maybe, but your giving is your contribution. It's what you give. And as you contribute, of course, you receive. And what you receive, you contribute. And it's over and over and over and over. Well, I thank all of you for being here. And KH, you have any final words?
Um, it's a kind of feeling of freedom and relief to let go of this need to control.
Mm.
I think it's easier said than done, perhaps. But I mean, it's not it's a kind of feeling that we arrive at that we can let go and enjoy the ride down that river of life.
Mm. Yes, interesting about control. If you're control, we all like a little bit of control, huh? Some people
Yes.
like more than others. But, one of the things about learning to listen, you listen your own pattern of control, and you start to notice what occurs through your need to control. And not having control or not having control isn't that you just flop open. That's not what we're doing here. But there's something in terms of wonder where you have no control.
I just had a thought, Betty.
Mhm.
If you are dancing, are you controlling?
Yeah.
If you are dancing, moving to the music,
Mm.
it is a pattern, but I don't see it as control. I see it as going with the flow. And life is a flow and not a goal. Life is just a flow that you go along with. There's no need. So in that sense, it's a dance, and dancing is not control, I think.
Yeah, but now this is the other side of this, Cage. This is a longer conversation. But the great dancers, they've learned the practices and the movements of the dance they're in,
Yes.
right? So it's something in terms of embodying that
Yes.
we embody.
Yeah.
And so if you're embodying control to the point where you can't move, that's a pattern,
Mm.
right? But it's like playing, the last call we had, we talked about playing the violin.
Mm.
Anna learned to play the violin when she was younger. She doesn't play it anymore as much, but she had to learn. Like you had to learn lawyer, how to be a lawyer. Everybody in here, whatever profession you're in, you learn the practices of that. And it doesn't mean that in terms of dancing, if you are, do you just rush onto the dance floor and dance? I won't have the dance conversation because,
Right.
no.
Yes.
But you know what I mean? It's something that you embody.
Mm.
And if you notice little kids again, they dance, some of them like their hair is on fire, and they're not asking who's looking or what you think of me. But once it becomes a profession, right,
Yeah.
there's certain practices, there's certain ways of being, there's certain language that you start to embody, which shapes you and your dancing. Well, thank you, KH. This has been wonderful.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing you in Malaysia sometime
Oh,
in the
that's the
year or
dreams.
next year. Yeah, it would be great. It'll be good. And to all of you, thank you for being here. And I will make sure when this online course is ready, you will receive a copy. And I want to hear from you about it. It has opened so many new ways of thinking and being for me in terms of the freedom that KH was speaking about as a dancer. And I don't mean I'm a dancer, but as a dancer with philosophy, with love, with life, with caring, with participation. So I thank you. And for all of you who are ICF coaches, we believe in this whole notion of bringing to all of you coaching, mentoring, so that you can bring to the people that you work with the best of you. And the ICF, International Coaching Federation, they have a program, and Anna, my business partner in Mexico, she studies this and she really cares. And so there will be mentoring, and we'll make sure that that's available to you. Find out when it starts. And if you can't be there, I highly, highly recommend it because coaches, people who can be with people today is really what's needed. And be with people in a way they can listen, meaning they're heard, they're seen, and that you have the presence to bring other people forward. And repattering your relationship with abundance is a commitment that I have through this course that I've been working on for quite some time. And we'll make sure that you get a copy of it at no charge, but at some moment in time, we'll charge for it. It will be an online course, and it's fun, and you'll have a good time with it. So I'll say this to you. May you trust what is already moving in your life. May you notice support more easily. May you create with courage. May you circulate what is alive in you and what it is you want to bring to the world. May you recognize the abundance that is here right now. And may you receive with openness, dignity, and peace. And may this practice of abundance continue to shape not only what comes to you, but who you become and what comes from you. So walk in peace, walk in grace, walk in openness, and as we alluded to here, walk in care, a care for your fellow human beings on this beautiful planet on which we live. Thank you, and good night.